Greetings, good evening, welcome to Combe TV, episode 75. Quite incredible. Always amazes me when we get to those numbers. The good news is, as I said last time, we're not stopping over the winter. The season might be finished, but there's still plenty more fun to be discussed. Over the course of this winter, we're going to do Nights of Champions, where we're going to get each of the champions from the championships, an episode each as we go along. But of course, we actually celebrate those guys this Saturday night at Future Inns in Bristol. We have the awards evening that I'm delighted to be hosting. So I'm looking forward to that one. So tonight, I decided to do something a little bit different. I wanted to catch up with, now I've put it in inverted commas to say the new management team, because they're not new anymore, but they're new in terms of they were this year formed and really pushed through their paces and they've achieved a lot in year one and are already planning way through 2024, probably into 25 as well. And it's time that we caught up with them all. But before we do that, there's a few of you jumping in with your comments. Our very own Emma Strawford. Evening, Emma. How you doing? Have you got a French red on the go, Em? I hope so. Chris Mason, our mean green machine. Evening to you, and possibly to Joshy if he's with you as well. Blimey, our very own Rob Jones, our two-wheeled instructor. Did he instruct one of our guests tonight at any point? No, it'd probably be the other way around, wouldn't it? I'm trying to see if he's laughing at that or not. I'm not telling you. Evening all. I'm just on my way out for the evening, but we'll be catching up later. All the best to Team Coombe. I'll settle for that one, Rob, because you're normally focused, but I'll let you off, mate. Chris Rea, one of our mighty Orange Army. Evening all. Ben Hindle. I believe I'm seeing you on Saturday night, mate. So it'd be good to catch up with you. Oh, no, not you. No, sorry. It was somebody else that I saw was there. And I was like, wonder where Ben is these days. Are you racing with us next year, mate? I hope we're going to see you out next year. Drewster, another one of our Orange Army. Hello, mate. Evening to you. Em says you spying on me. I knew it'd be a bit of French red. I'm glad to hear it. The good news, Max, is that Rob was laughing because he probably knows that he didn't. So there we go. And Keith Rain, one of our chiefs in the pit lane. Evening to you, Keith. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Don't forget, once we get going with our guests tonight, make sure you keep the questions coming in because it's a great opportunity to catch up with the team. Evening to Amy as well. Thank you for the like that I've just seen come in from Amy. Good to see you. Can't believe that the old boy sold the cake or selling the caterham. That's really sad. Emma Brown, I'll definitely see you Saturday night. You're presenting some trophies, our Formula Ford Championship coordinator. And I mentioned Formula Fords. We've also got Stuart Tinker-Taylor, our Fuffer lover. Hello, Chris and co. from a Fuffer-loving camp softcore fan. He is. He sits up there all the time. You've had a few absentees this time, mate. Chris Mason says, Joshy says, evening. Evening, Joshy. Good to know you're there. No, sorry, Ben. I know you're not there, but next year is not likely, so we're still not going to see you back. The mighty Vauxhall Corsa. Come on, mate. If that can't come out, get something else then. We want to see you back out. Sue, evening, Sue. You've been an absolute godsend to the team, I believe, towards the tail end of the season when you joined the Cat and the team in the admin office. Thank you so much for all of your work, Sue. So good to see you, and I look forward to catching up with you, Sue. Lee Waterman. Evening, all. Evening, Lee. One of my revelations this year in his MGZR. You've been absolutely wicked this year, Lee. It's been a pleasure, and I hope we're going to see you back next year out in that MGZR taking on the saloons. Really impressive. The ZRs competing against each other were just so much fun. They really were. Right, let's get our guests out. We've still got people coming in. Danny Wilson. Hello, Danny. Welcome to the show. Right, let's do them one at a time to start with, but we're going to be all four of us out on this show. Let's start with a surname that we definitely know. Still the comments are coming in. Gemma Slate says, Rob Jones, when you buy in the GSX 8S, Emma Strawford, you're a legend. All at Castle Combe Circuit are amazing. Bless you, Gemma. Thank you very much. And Ben Hayward says, hello. Hello, Ben Hayward, to you too, mate. Right, let's bring him out. George Marshallsay. George, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, good, thanks. How you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, good. Sales and marketing manager. Yeah. Then that's the responsibilities that you've taken on this year. Then.
Yeah. Feels like a long time ago I started being working in marketing and events, but yeah, it's been good.
Was it much of a change for you? Because I know obviously you were already working with the circuit. It's just kind of formulating his management team, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I was working in retail as well because we had the new shop coming in and stuff, so I was focused on that, and then still carrying on a bit of my marketing duties and stuff like that, and then Max and Rich coming in now. It's just just helping out a lot more, really, to be honest. It's like yeah.
Nice as a team as well, I would imagine, isn't
it? Like ideas and everything like that. It's working really well, I think. So.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Still, the comments are coming in. Sean Deacon, definitely see you Saturday, mate. Evening Dawesy from me and Tim's Fuchsbale. It's not Tim's. There shouldn't be an apostrophe S on that one, should there, mate? Let's bring up who we're going to bring up next. Let's go in alphabetical order because then I can't be accused of any kind of favouritism. It's not because he's the king of Coombe. It's Max Symonds. All right, Max.
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me again.
I know we had you on the build up to the Halloween Action Day, but now we're actually talking about the role, and I said that we would, and you've come on board as a commercial manager. What does that mean?
To put it as simply as possible, will help the circuit make more profit, cut expenditures. So, it can come in a very, very different ways. So it could be, bringing in sponsorship and advertising, looking at the services we run and looking at how we can improve them, looking at new events and new income streams that we bring in, like I said before, cutting costs and reducing expenditures wherever we can. But yeah, essentially just helping the circuit become more profitable.
Yeah, and I know that we're going to be able to touch on sponsorship tonight, so we'll move on to that because I know that's something you've been incredibly busy. I say over the close season, you had to start that before we got to the end of the season, really, didn't you?
Yeah, it's always the way. Kind of those conversations, I think, start in summer about the following season, and you kind of want to be in the position where, like we are now, we're kind of securing the deals already, so that we're going into 2024 already kind of knowing where we're at, knowing what partners we're bringing on board, and then we can really try and make the most of their involvement and give them the most value as well.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, as you know, is that I have the privilege of going all around the country. Castle Combe's my home, my heart, but I go elsewhere, and the things that I see is I wouldn't be surprised if that sort of almost slides earlier and earlier, because you kind of almost need to be talking about it, summer at the latest, probably for the next year.
Yeah, definitely. I came in midway through this year, and the conversation straight away were, about what we can do with people for 2024. Once you're into your within motorsport, it's almost a little bit too late. It's all, it's all about what's happening next season whilst you're in the previous season to some extent. So yeah, it's kind of, there's not been a lot for people to see yet, but I think when we get into the new year, there'll be quite a few announcements and changes.
And it's not just on the commercial side; it's on the event side themselves. Let's bring out the fourth final. Save the best to last, Rich. It's no problem. Here's Rich Perry. Hello, mate. The events manager. You've got to do it early as well, haven't you?
Yeah. Obviously, great introductions from George and Max. I focus, 12 months, if not further ahead, especially with something like Castle Combe. I mean, it won't be a surprise to people that 2025 is our 75th anniversary. So conversations we have for 2024, in the back of our minds, to the front of our minds, sometimes we're also focusing on the enormity of dealing with something so big as an anniversary for a whole year's worth of events. And then, unlike the two guys here, I've joined having never been to the circuit before. I don't have a racing background, cars, motorbikes, anything like that. I've been in the events industry one way or another for like 20 years. So these guys have been great. And obviously shout out to Mr. Weston, who's far too famous to join us on a Wednesday evening.
He's got to have a show of his own.
And that's literally what I hear. But then if you scroll through YouTube, you can see plenty of shows where he's a part of this already.
Yes.
But no, I mean, I'm very much been taken under the wing by these guys and everyone at the track, like yourself included. Everyone's passionate. I think that's the thing I've come to. I've come to an area where, there's lots of opportunity for us as a circuit, and especially within the events. And again, from the commercial side of things, how we do our marketing, like there's been a lot of, quite in-depth discussions, especially, you try and say, we'll start in the summer thinking about the next year. But since we finished after Halloween, it's been non-stop meetings, discussions, decision-making. We've got a point to prove, I think, for 2024. And, if you speak to Graham, he's very much everything's an event. Everything can be marketed. Everything is a commercial opportunity. We work together to do that for the circuit. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, what I want to do is just so that everybody that's watching, we're going to try and sort of find out a little bit about the individuals that we now see around here, as well as the work they've done this year and what's going forward. Just quickly, a couple more comments that have come in. Daniel Williams says, even indoors and everyone else, is it 2024 yet? Nearly there, mate. Nearly time to hibernate, and we'll wake up and it will be. Sam Preston says, oh no, not Rich Perry.
Don't know who that is.
No, I think he had a media company once. David Vivian says, evening all. David Vivian, we want to see you back out on circuit again, mate. Although, did I see it was you that is actually going hill climbing next year? That's great, but I want to see you back at Castle Combe. But listen, we've now got all our guests on. We're going to catch up and find out more about each of the individuals. So I'm going to be fair. I'm going to go in the opposite direction this time round, and it's going to be Rich that's first. Rich, you just touched on one of the key points I wanted to speak to you about, and that was that you say that you've come from outside of the motor racing world. First things first, then, what sort of things have you been involved in that you can share with us?
I don't know what that last sentence means.
Only because I don't know the answer to it, so I'm protecting my backside.
Yeah, everything I've done, Chris. All above board, pal. So a big part of my background is like the higher education sector. I've worked for universities, Plymouth, UWE, and Bristol. But alongside that, I've run National Gin Festival, which stemmed into things like Oktoberfest, anything sort of alcohol-related festivals and stuff I've done across the country. Through the universities, big involvement in things like varsity challenges. So sport involvement, not necessarily from the motorsport aspect. All that up until COVID, the dreaded C word. Weirdly, there weren't many events during COVID, so everything I'd worked 15 years to build was, a big change. Got back into it, and then the opportunity to come along to Castle Combe came up, and bit of research, bit of conversation, and it seemed like a no-brainer to definitely apply. And then here I am today. I've always enjoyed events. I think if we get asked, what makes a successful event and stuff like that. Yes, we have to put money in the tills and stuff like that. We've got a responsibility in that sort of aspect, but I am very much a people person. If I'm out and about, when I'm out and about in events, stopping and chatting, everything from our traders to different clubs and checking in on the guys that are, sorting out club passes on action day or catting the team for race days, all of our Orange Army, chatting to the marshals. And I sort of get about a bit and like to sort of chat to people and stuff like that. So for me, like I said, I've done loads of events within those industries, festivals on, 5 to 20,000 capacity festivals, all the way down to corporate dinners and things like that, So for me, it's a passion for events, and all this is bringing my old experiences into a new environment, and generally getting looked at like I'm a bit strange when I suggest some options or some ideas, and but I think that's why I'm here. I'm here to bring that different spin to it, taking on the passion and pretty much really tapping into the passions of people that I work with. I mean, I've got, like I said, we mentioned Sam earlier with his distasteful comments, Chris. You need to filter those things out. But more so, chatting to Sam about, with the marketing side of things. Chris, he's popped up then. With the medical side of things, we've got our track manager. There's just so much that happens that I don't know if anyone realizes, and I definitely didn't. And joining halfway through a season, you're in amongst it all. Come the end of the season, it's a deep breath, but let's get ready because it's going to start again in a few months.
And I think that's a key one to pick up. I'm going to jump around a little bit, and I'm going to bring George onto the fore here. Sorry, that scared you then, didn't it? Yeah. But just to pick up on that point that Rich made there, is that you'll know this, even if it wasn't always directly you'll know as well as I do, is that historically what we've got as a team here, and Steve Weston included as well, used to be kind of almost done by like one person would have to do everything, sales, marketing, and events. And this is the year that the circuit have put this structure in place where all of you have got responsibilities, but then come together as a team.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like kind of where I sit is a little bit in between sometimes. Well, we all work together. That's the main thing. It's like Rich is saying, preparing for the events for next year and stuff now. And it's like getting ideas out, and we're meant to be having like a meeting coming soon about the events and everything we think like we all want to add to it and come up with a plan for next year. But then it's like a rolling thing, isn't it? If we can't get it for this year, it's what's for next year. And then my side I see is like customer feedback and all of that kind of thing, and looking at what other people do and how we can really like get ourselves into the market and do the best we can. Which
makes sense. And I guess it's fair to say, George, is that obviously you've been around the circuit the whole of your life. In reality, which means that you've got a passion, you've got an understanding, and you're now sort of like learning on the job to be able to make it your own, to bring your own ideas to it with the advice of the team as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've been working there. This is my 5th year, would be like in August, I think, since I started. So yeah, it's been like a lot of stuff and a lot of things I've been thinking about, and obviously with COVID and stuff, like that really, that was really eye-opening, just having like track days and stuff, like carrying the business and stuff for a while. But then it's been like, it's like, so it was like, for me, I kind of missed out on the season there. And then it's been like, nice to just like get the ball rolling really. And I think definitely with like, Max and Rich will be like, we've got a good team. So,
and I know that you and we caught up and had a good drink at the awards under Concord last year, didn't we? That was good. Are you at this weekend?
Yeah, I'm there on Saturday. Yeah, we were. It was the Future Inns one as well. I remember we were on the same table, weren't we?
That's right. Yes, we were. I remember that. That was almost the first. Was that the first awards you'd been to?
Yeah.
Because you were quiet to start with, and then you just sort of realised that, oh no, I can relax and enjoy this. And that's the beauty of the circuit, is that everybody. I know you guys are the family, but it is like an extended family, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially for me, like I've grown up there and stuff, but it's like you see both sides. And it was like we were talking about how like events used to have like a big marquee with like a gaming in it. I remember that from being a child, and like thinking about how we get there again, isn't it? And the same with Max as well. He's been to a lot of events and stuff, and he knows about like some like displays we've had on track and stuff. So it's like just trying to work all together. And
I got to say something to all of you guys to consider, is that one of the things I remember as a child up at Quarry Corner is that we'd have various traders, especially after the British Grand Prix, that would rock up with stock they still had left from their sort of like trading things of like team merchandise and all this. And as a youngster, I used to have pocket money that I would go and spend on those things. So as well as the shop down there on the start finish straight, is get something at Quarry Corner. That would be wicked to have the stalls up there as well. That's just my 2 pennies worth. It's unimportant, but that's one of the things. I'm going to jump back, Max. I will come to you in a minute, but I'm going to jump back to Rich, because I just thought it made sense to sort of follow on a couple of the things you said there, Rich. But how much do you think it's an advantage to not be initially emotionally invested in motorsport compared to a disadvantage? I've heard both sides of the argument, really. You're not sort of biased, are you, at the moment?
I think what's good is seeing the opportunities that maybe aren't present to everybody if they're solely focused on racing.
Yeah.
I've said to you, Chris, I said to the guys, there's a huge infield that I just want to play with. I got lots of options, ideas and stuff like that, next to the massive solar field, but the actual space not covered with solar panels. There's a lot to be done for that. But what I also have done is I've come to obviously nearly every event since I started, building that passion. Like, I now care about motorcycles. I have a favorite motorcycle racer. I have.
It better be Max.
For this, I'll say it is Max, but I have been winding him up all day saying I will.
Did you know that he's King of Combe?
Has he got the lap record though on a bike? No. Oh, as you can tell, we're all a lovely part of this family. But I've seen Max race, and whereas before I'd see motorcycles and I'd be like, oh, okay, and I care a little bit more because it's someone I know and it's someone I support. I support Max Symonds racing. Max Symonds the person. Jury's out, but and then I get a vested interest in like the car racing because I see the passion, like Kat, Cheryl, and the team, what they put into it. I get to absorb that on the days when I'm at the racing, where there isn't so much for me to do. It's more like a reconnaissance day for me. Like, what can we add as a circuit? How can we boost the spectator and enjoyment of what's going on? And then as a result, I through Formula Fords and stuff with Luke Cooper, and I'm now a fan of Formula Ford and Luke. It's those sort of things that it's not like I'm trying not to, but I'm very much easily pulled into becoming a fan. But I think day one, it was very much like, right, okay, why don't we do X, Y, Z? I've learned about, the noise restrictions on what we can do, and working with the local community has been a big thing that we're sort of building on for this year. But the thing I always say, like, everyone's got an idea for an event or something to add to an event, which makes my job both really easy and also really difficult. Because
you can't please everyone, can you?
You can't please everyone, but my job is to please as many people as possible. with the events and stuff we put on. George touched on it then, you know, back in the day when you had like the PlayStation tents or gaming tents and stuff like that, like there's a need for these sort of things to come back. It's just how we do it, when we do it, where's there space? Like, as you know, like race days, the paddock is the prime area, fills up really quickly. So, you know, we have discussed trade at other areas, quarry, for example. I was going to comment on your age because I was going to say, surely now all that stuff you're talking about would just be online. That's the clubs are clearing out, but as you said before we got on, like you're not that much older than me, so I'll be a bit quiet.
It was just a tough paper round, all right.
But from my perspective, I don't think it's a positive or a negative. I think it's an opportunity. As I can say no, and I'm not necessarily tied down to things like, you know, a phrase, we've always done it that way, or that person's always done that, or we've always used this supplier and stuff like that. I think what I get to do is I've got a whole network of anyone to supply everything, what works best from a value perspective, from an experience perspective. So that's what I sort of been able to do. I mean, I really enjoyed the Autumn Classic this year. You know, I even got made to dress up, which is my favorite thing. But something like the Autumn Classic is such an established event. It was like, well, what can I do to it? And, you know, I worked really hard to make sure we had that Lotus display. That sort of thing happens already. I made sure we had a nice hospitality offer. It's a team effort, guys, but it's all me. You know, we made sure we had the stage with entertainment and into, like, you know, there was a lot that builds into 2024 based on what worked, what didn't work, you know, but ultimately we turned a corner this year, I think, with spectators numbers and stuff like that, like responding to feedback, which I'm sure George will touch on. And as a result, like the event attendance skyrocketed. So it was like, right, okay, people do want to come. We will entertain them when they're here. And like I said, as we move into 2024, I feel my job is to give George too many things to promote and advertise and constantly knocking on his door and being like, George, I've got another thing. I've got another idea. And at the same time, George, Max, Steve, I'll list off everyone I've met since I started, always has that idea as well. Why don't you try this? We used to do this. It was really popular. Why don't you bring the minis back? Like, you know, I can't count the number of times that phrase has been said, but people care. People are really interested in what we do. And, you know, as a management team, it's our job to provide that to them. Steve's element to that is obviously a bit boring, where it's just making sure it's safe.
It's got to be done. I mean, just to put this up,
he is good at it.
Paul Wiltshire's put up a comment saying a cafe reinstated at Old Paddock would be good. And how I don't know whether you guys are aware of this, George, you'll remember it. Is below the commentary box at Old Paddock, there used to be a cafe where people buy drinks and stuff like that. Something that way. I agree with the comment, so hence I've put that up there for you guys to be aware of, because otherwise you've got Quarry, and then where is it? Is the next place is round at Bobby's, I think, isn't it? Before you can buy any food or drink or anything like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so that's another one to put out for you there, guys. But equally is where did Andy Bisping? Andy, so good to work with Andy at the sprint that was there. Really enjoyed working on the stream with him. Welcome to all the new team. As we know, it's not that new anymore. Fresh ideas and an exciting future, and I agree. That's the beauty of it. Emma Brown says, welcome to the family to you all, and she's happy because you mentioned about Formula Ford, Rich, so she's more than happy. So that's fine. And Peggy Spackman says, evening, hi, late joiner, sorry, on behalf of Fudge to you and Slip and Grit, because, and again, some of the traders that are there. I do like the fact that Chris Mason put, is this Wiltshire's most wanted? It probably does look a bit suspect, doesn't it, at the moment? Caroline Sutton, evening, Caroline. We'll see you Saturday by the sounds of it. Bless you. Evening, all there. Here's an interesting one, and I'm not sure who this is, and it might change who we put this to, but John Creech, evening, putting my work hat on, have you been able to take learning from experience, not just from non-motorsport events, which Rich, you clearly have, but events from other circuits as well that are motor racing, such as Brands Hatch, who have had successful events, to see how Combe can undertake something similar? Now, Rich, I guess that you've got to take learning from them, but not just copy them.
Oh, yeah, very much so. I think, you know, again, George sort of mentioned it earlier. We sit in a very open environment on what other people do, what works, what doesn't work. That can promote best practice, and at the same time, you can think, well, hang on, that sort of thing could work at Castle Combe in a Castle Combe way. You know, we have space. We've got, you know, open fields galore, like, you know, a lovely track. There's opportunities, and some things aren't necessarily completely groundbreaking, out of the box thinking. I mean, they're, again, for a discussion for another time. I need to bring them up with others before I let you know. But we've just gone through like fireworks season, yet the circuit lends itself to firework displays and things like that. So, you know, there's talk of how we do that, but also in the context of 2023, 2024, do we look to do quiet displays? Do we make it more open for more people to attend and enjoy themselves? Like, you know, there's a lot of that sort of thing. And I mean, you know, before I started, I looked at what other circuits did, and you got Silverstone's festival with music and on-track and off-track action and all that kind of stuff. Like, we set ourselves quite well where we have a lot going on in our season. So we, you know, there's always scope to do more. But one of the things I'm working on is our off season. So for Christmas 2024, you know, there's a million and one things we can do. Like, you know, no promises, but we'll be looking at, you know, Christmas. Is it Christmas market route? Is it like an ice rink at the track? Is it, you know, using the spaces that we have for like local Christmas parties for businesses? Someone's approach to hire like some of the Strawford Centre spaces for like reef building, making reefing, like those sort of things. So I think, you know, there is a lot in the pipeline, and every day, like I said, I'll have an idea or someone will have an idea, and then I wander up and speak to Max or George or Graham. I know I'll say, look, what do you think of this? Have the conversation with people that, you know, I could work with on it. So yeah, I think, you know, looking at what the other circuits do, I'm sure they're looking at us, you know, like they'll see what we do. We're popular. We've got a lot going on, lots of different things. So yeah, it's something we do, and it's something that we'll continue to do.
No, I understand that. I'm going to come to Max in a second, but George, listening to all of that, that's got to be good news that actually when they're knocking on your door to say there's even more that they want you to be promoting, that's music to your ears, surely.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of my stuff is probably more like market research and stuff like that, where I do look at events and stuff, and it's like trying to grow the business like compared to other events and other circuits and similar things. Like there's like obviously you've got huge scope in motor racing, like motorsport in general. But I think it's like, yeah, we've got like different tiers of like Max obviously being a racer, like he's really into his motorsport and he knows like all these circuits really well. I've not been this year was the first time I've been to any other circuit apart from Castle Combe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's kind of like like it's still like it's one of those things where I'm probably still like growing my interest. Like I've done a few driving experiences now. I've like, yeah, not yet got a track car, but I've got a friend who's very keen, so it's like getting more into it. And it was a bit like, yeah, I don't stuff like when you had like paddock life on and stuff like that. Still just fun to like just get to know what the scene's a bit more like, really. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
But equally to you, I guess it's repeating that comment is that to learn from these other venues, but not just copy them, is it?
Exactly. And what we do is we do like good stuff, and we've got a core customer base who really like what we do, and it's trying to like work out the best for everyone, really.
Well, I've always had a thing wherever I'd be commentating, the amount of times that I'd get comments, they go, what is it that Combe does so different? Because they've always got big crowds. We'll come on to that side in a second, but it just always for since I was 5 years old, it's always been a big crowd. Whereas I can go and commentate some other circuits, and I sometimes feel like I'll be better off going and sitting next to them and telling them what's happening, you know, if there can be that few. That is like something that we've learned this year, though, George, we can't take for granted either.
No, yeah. And yeah, but then it's like, it's what we see, like how, like what does Castle Combe like suit itself most towards, and that's like the style of the circuit and that kind of thing. Like classic car racing has been exceptional this year.
It hasn't just.
Yeah. And all
the bikes will get lots, and our local championships will get lots with some special events thrown in. I mean, they're very varied, aren't they? Our fans at the circuit, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like just trying to bring it all together. We've got like a media day planned and stuff this year, and it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
What we can do.
I'd imagine we'll be running live with this there as well, with some kind of show like we did last year.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I've been threatening to do this, so I will do it at last, Max. So we can put you up big now, so we can see your trophies in the background there, mate.
I had to get him in the shot, didn't I?
100%, even if it's just to sort of make Rich tut and nod his head and what have you.
Is that a Christmas tree, Max?
Yeah, I can see the reflection in the trophy there, I think, Max.
Yeah, so I've been the master of the office because everyone's heard that the Christmas tree's gone up in my house and everyone's very appalled. But
Yes.
I had nothing to do with it, so don't blame me.
That old chestnut. But Max, and I know all of you have been putting comments in, and I will come to them because there's some good comments and good questions, and I will come to it. But before we do that, Max, let's touch on the fact that you literally live a stone's throw away from the circuit. You were already having success as a motorbike racer, and then lo and behold, you join as a commercial manager at the circuit. I mean, how did that come about?
Yeah, it all kind of just fell into place. I'm not from around here originally. I'm from down in Somerset, but I moved to Chippenham 2.5 years ago. And yeah, it was kind of just a bonus that Castle Combe happened to be down the road, and it was convenient when there are track days and races on. And I always kind of thought, oh, yeah, it'd be nice if a job just happened to pop up at Combe. It'd be like the dream scenario. And then all of a sudden, I think it was January this year, I was just scrolling on Facebook and ping, there was the advert, and I was like, well, got to go for it. And here I am.
What were you doing beforehand?
So I was doing digital marketing, mostly for Jaguar Land Rover, Shell and Tesco. So I did that for about 5 years. And then I was doing sort of more event marketing before that for likes of Ferrari and DHL and Petronas and a few others. So yeah, quite a few different brands, but it's mostly on sort of the marketing and promotion side.
I think he's trumped you again there, Rich, to be honest, mate.
Wow. That's what I try and do on a daily basis. You got to keep him down. You can't let him feel too good.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, you different to what we've just been saying certainly to Rich, for example, where he's come in from outside of the sport. You were already a petrol head.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously 2 wheels, but do you have an enjoyment of 4-wheel racing, or was that new to you?
To be honest, before I joined Combe, it's always been purely 2 wheels for me. It has been, for my entire life. I think my dad started racing motorbikes when I was sort of 1-2 years old. So I've been in the racing paddock around the country every year that I can remember.
Wow.
But yeah, on the car side is where it's kind of new for me, and yeah, coming into Combe is where I've suddenly learned a lot more about it and got to see a lot of cool cars. But yeah, before that, it's always been bikes for me, and I've always got half an eye on where I can bring a few more bikes to Combe, get a bit more 2-wheeled action out there.
And I don't think that will be met with resistance. I have to be honest; it always gets a big crowd there. But I mean, that means that your 2 worlds have collided with your professional work, your 2-wheel racing, and then still had more to learn on the 4-wheel stuff to bring it all together, to bring your, as commercial manager. And I know you've been working incredibly hard on things such as sponsorship. What else do you get involved with doing before we move on to sponsorship discussions?
So it's a little bit of everything, really. There's a commercial aspect to everything that happens at Combe. Although people see it as a circuit and an event venue, it is in essence a business. So there's a commercial aspect to everything. So that can be how we hire out the track to third parties, and who we choose to hire it out to, but also the things that we run at the circuit as well. That's not just our big events, but we have track days, we have experience days, we have rally school. There's lots of different things that the circuit can offer as well. And then there's a lot of work internally, I suppose, just looking at how do we operate, how do we do things, and how can we make that more efficient? How can we make the circuit more profitable, with the end goal of having more money to then invest in the circuit for the future. We have, I think it's fair to say, quite big plans for where the circuit's going to go, but that can't happen unless we generate more income to fund it.
That was the irony, wasn't it? People were sort of like, especially when there was some talks of what some of the things that may happen. And it was like, well, how's that going to be funded? It can't just suddenly appear. Now, Robin Nathan, he's made a comment. I'm not going to put your full comment up, Robin, but I'm going to bring it up. And he's talking about things like the presentable side of the circuit. And I know that you guys and Steve Weston have been working very hard on that. Is just sort of like dragging it up by its boots, isn't it? So that it sort of looks clean and fresh.
Yeah, definitely. I think Castle Combe, as far as circuits goes, has one of the best histories out there. But it is fair to say that the circuit at the moment is a little bit tired, particularly when you compare it to the likes of Silverstone and Donington and other circuits that aren't that far away. And we completely realise that. And Steve Weston's been working really hard over the past few months to create I guess what you call a mega list of all the tasks to be done around the site. Anything from refurbishing the toilets to repainting to building new infrastructure, all these different kind of things. So yeah, it's all on the plan. What we've got to do now is make sure that we do it at a pace that is affordable to the circuit, and that wherever possible we bring in more income so that we can speed that up, and customers can start seeing the benefits sooner. It's always a little bit of a catch-22. We want to offer a better products, but that requires more money. But we can't, realistically, we can't just charge people more money on the promise that we're going to give them better value in future. It's got to be up front. Yeah, I think sort of prior to us, starting as a management team, there was decisions made to raise the prices for a lot of things, and I think it's we're in agreement that it was probably jumping the gun a little bit, and we kind of hadn't given people more value. We were charging them more, which obviously didn't go down very well. And we listened to that and backtracked on it. And we've just recently this week been looking at prices for next year and ensuring that they're still affordable and they're still attractive to people, to make sure that people are still coming to the circuit.
Yeah, I mean, picking up on something you said there, Max, is that what's really tricky is that you say compared to, and you use Silverstone, Donington, whatever as examples, but we cannot lose fully our heritage at Castle Combe. George and I that have been involved with the circuit in various ways, myself as a fan since 5 and last whatever it is 11 years as a commentator, etc., is that it's got that sort of traditional feel to it. However, you can't give in to everybody saying, but that's the way it always has been as well. And it's a very fine line, isn't it?
It's you're right. It's a balancing act. We want to modernize things and make sure that we're giving people the best experience possible. But like you say, we don't want to lose what makes
identity.
Castle Combe. There's the spectating at Castle Combe, I'd say that is probably second to none. And again, if we were to compare that to Silverstone, the views you get at Castle Combe, you'd be probably paying £1,000 plus a ticket to get that kind of view at Silverstone, or you just wouldn't be able to. So, there's lots of things that you get at Combe that you don't get at any other racetrack. It is a balancing act, and there's certainly a lot of things that are special about Castle Combe, and I think that's why we see that it still draws big crowds to pretty much every event, whereas other racetracks that perhaps are a bit more modern struggle to do so.
100% agree, and again, speaking from experience at working at them, but events seems to be the thing that drives it, which is where it all sort of comes that you guys are working together on this. Let me just catch up on a few comments. First of all, Emma says we're not the most wanted, we're actually a boy band. There you go. I prefer Emma's version of that.
You wouldn't want to hear me sing.
I thought one of those trophies was for you singing.
Give me one to start.
Nick Holmes from Club Racing UK. Hello, Nick. Good to see you, mate, and good to see you guys are on the go again. He says Club Racing UK are looking forward to helping out where we can. Tom, cheeky. John 40, he's going to be coming on the show soon as well. I guarantee you. 40, evening all to you, mate. Quickly go back. Goose up at Quarry Hard, one of the Quarry Hardcore. He's got a question. Are there plans to extend the fencing at the exit of Quarry? Now, I think that's a loaded question because I think he wants the answer to be no, but we, of course, had a wheel go up over the bank at the last race meet, didn't we? Anything that you're
Yeah,
aware
we
of?
did.
Was
Yeah,
that
which
Steve Weston?
wasn't great. Yeah, so I mean, it is Steve's area. I know that we're looking at the fencing around Quarry, and quite a bit of it is going to be getting replaced over winter. Whether it's going to be extended and how far, if so, it's going to be extended to. Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know.
So you'll have to wait, Goose.
George knows.
Yeah, George, do you know the answer to that one, or is that a Steve Weston question?
Yeah, it's all Steve Weston question really. I think it's budget
That's
depending and everything getting signed off, etc.
Yeah, I thought I'd drop you all in it anyway, just in case.
Rich might know more.
Got me in it.
Yeah, go on. We've dropped everyone in it.
I actually, I don't know exactly where, but there is extending to catch fencing in certain areas. I think that might be Quarry, but
Right.
you know, I come in a similar time in the morning as Steve, and we'll sit and have a coffee and fencing and stuff. Although it's super important, I need that coffee before everything's returned. But no, like you know, touching on what the guy said about improving the look of Castle Combe and trying to, you know, make it what we know it can be.
Yeah.
You know, I do hear conversations and stuff like that, you know, we've just refurbed the toilet block, which for some people is the best thing ever. And for us, it's that sort of the steps in the right direction. So,
Yes.
you know, the investment into something like a toilet block is not exciting. It's not, you know, it's not changing the feel of Castle Combe, but it is giving that idea, that identity that we are modernizing and just doing our best to do better whenever we can.
And that always, you know, and I go back, I've always, whenever I'm hosting the Castle Combe Racing School, which again, I emphasize people, if you've not done it, get to the racing school, you get to learn the racing lines and get out on the circuit. But one of the things I say is that Howard Strawford was just a hero of mine. I grew up 20 minutes down the road from the circuit originally in Yate, Chip and Sobry area, or as Tom Davis calls it, the Cotswolds.
Oh.
I think he's vanished.
Wow, left us.
Yeah, you did say
Left us hanging a little bit. I don't know whether he's just had enough and gone home.
I'm back.
There he is.
I don't know what happened. It just spat me out. It obviously wasn't liking what I was saying for some reason. The point I was about to make was that Howard Strawford was one of my absolute heroes. Grew up Yate, Chip and Sobry area, Cotswolds as Tom Davis calls it, and fell in love with racing from 5 years old with my dad, and just adored it. And one of the things he used to do, the reason why he's a hero, is that he would just work on something year after year after year, and you just improve the safety, the facilities, what we can attract, all those kind of things. And I think that by the sound of it is really what you guys are trying to do, both from the physical circuit, from what we've got going on there, what we can attract, which interestingly, I've got a great comment here. Let me just find it again. Ben Hayward makes the comment, hugely missing the days, George, you must remember this, of F3, British GTs, Britcar, etc. Is there a realistic chance of a large profile series returning, please? I think we can throw TCR in there as well. Now, who should I be aiming that question out of you three?
I mean, to be honest, I'd say it's probably more of a question for the racing club, I think. Yeah, I would say we're always looking at, you know, what big series can we get at the circuit. A lot of the time it comes down to the noise restrictions we have. You know, pretty much all circuits in the UK have fairly strict noise restrictions, but I'd say we're at the stricter end of it, which makes it difficult for those bigger championships because they are, I guess, more powerful and normally louder machines. But yeah, there's definitely, the racing club are working hard to bring in a variety of different series, and, you know, wherever we can, some of those higher profile ones. But yeah, we are a little bit handcuffed with the noise limits that we have at the moment.
What about, and I don't know how true this is, but there's often talk about, and again, I don't know who this question should go to, is garages could make a difference, you know, pit lane garages. Is that something that you feel is a genuine difference maker? And is it something that you think we ever could address? Because I know that's not an easy fix.
It's definitely something that we've spoken about quite a lot in the past few months. And it's something that as a circuit we'd like to have in future, and we'd like to be able to offer people. Again, it comes down to, we need to first raise that income to be able to invest in it. Obviously, once we've got it there, then it will help us make more money. But up until that point, we need to basically, make a bit more profit, keep this money aside so that we can then invest in it, because it is, it will be a big expense. So it's not the kind of thing that we can just crack on with and do because we want to.
And even space is an issue as well. Space as well, really.
Yeah. But as Rich mentioned, we do have the infield, which is kind of, aside from the solar farm, it is unused at the moment. So there is the potential you could have a bridge or a tunnel and a pit complex on the inside. We're kind of open to all possibilities at the moment. It comes down to what funding we can raise and what fits with the vision for Castle Combe in the future. Because again, like we were saying before, we don't want to go too much the other way and lose what makes Castle Combe. But yes, we're definitely looking at pit garages, and if we can raise the funds, then it's something that we'll look at doing.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a good comment from Ben there. Putting more up, Alex Hobbs says, "Hi, Uncle Max from Aira." Did I say that right? Yeah. I don't know whether to bring this one up or not. I will put it. Wasn't there advertisement of an outdoor cinema at the circuit? Did that happen? The answer is no. Let me take that another way. Is that likely to happen again? And I'm going to throw you under the bus for that one, Rich.
No, not under the bus at all. We did have one planned in for, I think it was the August bank holiday weekend. And I think one of the biggest contributing factors to any outdoor venue, let alone ours, is the weather. So one eye on the weather meant, we had to postpone it. We looked and looked and looked, but it is coming back. We're putting it hopefully into the August bank holiday of 2024.
And ironically, you were properly stitched up, because then the weather that was being forecast didn't blooming appear, did it?
And this is the thing, everyone says Castle Combe circuit specifically has its own microclimate. It could be raining and we get sunshine. It could be sunshine everywhere else and we get rain. But it's one of the challenges. The thing, like, I've done outdoor cinemas before. You make that stipulation. Unfortunately, it is a definite possibility. And then we say that we'll do it earlier in the year because of the summer, but look, it's spring action day this year. The weather we dealt with on that day before I started, but the weather I heard people dealt with on that day, like, it's a stab in the dark. So some of that is popular. It was popular. It was really disheartening to have to postpone it, but that's the type of event where we roll it out. It became popular. We know it's going to be successful. And then open to feedback, we haven't even done it, but how can we improve it? What makes it, how can we make 2024 better than what 2023 could have been? So it is coming back, and other events like that. Like I said, I put that in the same sort of pot as like fireworks. It's events that I feel like should be happening and some that will be.
And you've got to run with it and know that it might not get the perfect numbers the first time, because the word's got to spread.
It's exactly that. Like I came in and I was, it was very much like let's do it. And like I said, the numbers were there. It was 3 nights. I think we did 3 nights we were planning to do across that bank holiday weekend. It's an easy sell to a point, because you've got a catchment of race drivers and, crews and stuff like that with, on site on, say, the Friday night or the Saturday night. It sort of lends itself to be popular as well. So with that, it's just one of those things where we're at the mercy of the weather. Nothing else really stops for the weather. We sort of crack on with everything, I think, at Castle Combe. But
that one could it?
That's one of the ones where we don't have. I mean, when you talk about like covered facilities and stuff with garages and stuff, Graham, I think, said to me early doors, if you could have one thing, what would it be? And I was like, 20,000 capacity warehouse slap bang in the middle of that infield, and I can have a great time. But like Max was saying, like, be great. We'd love that. We could use it for so many things, but it's a huge investment. Then you got to think bridges and tunnels and all sorts of other bits that go alongside it. But again, who knows? One day we've got the space, we've got the determination, the sort of drive to do more with it, with what we've got, and adding more to that. So yeah.
Agreed. Rob Drew says, any plans for TCR UK to come back? As Max said, that's a question really for the racing club, and obviously I'm kind of on the board for PR and media. And I know that the answer to that would be, we hope so. There would certainly is a desire to bring that back again, but it's not our call. You know, they are doing, they're growing as a championship and as a package, in fairness. But watch this space. Certainly from our angle, we would like to. Danny Wilson. So this is your Danny Wilson, is it, Max?
It is, yeah.
Yes, that is the Christmas tree. I put it up when Max was at work, never too early.
Yeah, so it started happening where if Danny has a day off in the week and I'm at work, I'll get home and the tree goes up. But worryingly, it seems to be getting a week earlier every year.
It does.
But we're getting to the early November now, so I feel like we've got to be almost at the limit.
I would agree.
Hopefully.
I think Rich, we were discussing earlier, he's way beyond that limit, isn't he?
I'm a big fan of Christmas. My wife will tell you, like, as soon as I see the first anything of Christmas, I start getting excited. But I feel like you can get Christmas burnout. So, I think 1st of December, it's Christmas jumpers. It's, decorating the office, decorating the home. Like, the beard's growing a little bit at the minute because we do a Christmas beard growing competition for the family. Chris, I might share with you the picture from a few years ago. It's got baubles, lights.
Oh my gosh.
The full thing. And I'm quite competitive. So as soon as it was like, we're growing beards for Christmas, I'm like, yes, excited. This is as Christmassy as it can get. I mean, I said to Max today, like, we had a long meeting. We had like lunch, like meal deal and stuff from Sainsbury's. And someone brought like the brie and cranberry Christmas sandwiches. And I'm like, it's November. It's just a sandwich, but Max loves
I would
them.
argue with that one. I love all the Christmas sandwiches. So yeah, that all year round, I'd be happy with that. Anything with a bit of cranberry sauce in it, and I'm happy.
But I agree with the Christmas burnout. It is all special. I keep trying to teach my 11-year-old daughter that if you have the good things all the time, they're not good things anymore.
Wow, you're
Well, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, George, what's your say on this? When should the Christmas tree go up, do you think?
Probably. I'm not the one to put the Christmas tree or anything. But when you're working in marketing, you start thinking about Christmas. I think in the summer, don't you? So
that is a good point.
I heard a Christmas song a few weeks ago. Like as soon as October goes, like as soon as Halloween passes, they say like Mariah Carey starts melting, doesn't she?
Yeah. You're very right, actually. And in fairness, the Christmas adverts started around that sort of time that you mentioned as well. And my wife was like, "Oh my God, that's just like ridiculous." And I went, "Well, hang on a minute. That they've only got 2 months to advertise that. So from your perspective, you need that time to be able to promote it."
Black Friday's the one as well. It's like I've been saying, we've got Black Friday coming up in a few weeks, and everyone's like, it's next week, isn't it? I've been getting promotions for ages. I'm like, no, it's like the 24th.
Is it really? Because I thought they were promoting it this Friday for some reason.
I've
lost
Friday.
track. I don't know.
They start promoting as soon as November starts, I think. So
absolutely. And I'm going to bring Max on because our very own two-wheel commentator Martin Bennett says, "Hello, King of Combe." Did you know that, Rich?
I've heard it, yeah. Max, which one's your King of Combe trophy then? Or your... Oh, it's right to hand? Brilliant, yeah.
This big shiny one, trying to get off the shelf for you. Here it is. Or it's actually
Did you feel under extra pressure to secure it for the second time running? Now you work here, though.
So it was run over 2 rounds this year. So the first meeting back in April was prior to me starting. But the second round was sort of 6 weeks into me starting the job. So there's always a lot of pressure going into Combe anyway, because it's the local round. So a lot of friends and family will come and watch, and there's the chance to win King of Combe. So it's always a bit stressful. But yeah, all of a sudden there was loads more people wanting to watch and cheer me on as well. So yeah, cool. So it was a little bit more stressful. Everyone in the team will probably say I was a lot more stressed,
and now Rich is a fan as well. No matter what he says, Rich is a Max.
You got a crown in your office.
You bought it for me.
Well, in fairness, even Emma Strawford said our king. There you go. So she's put a crown up as well. Your better half has said yes, more bikes at Combe. That was from earlier when you said that. She wants more bikes there as well.
Always.
I have to say, I adored you two in the pit lane when the drift cars went out at the Halloween Action Day. You guys were just amazing. We were live on the microphone at that point, and you went out with the most berserk drift driver I have ever come across. And she was shaking on the pit wall. She was going out, but she thought she was going to be safe. Bless you, Danny. You thought you were safe with someone else, but you went out with the same one. But you guys just lapped that up.
It was brilliant fun. It's yeah, I've obviously done probably 1,000+ laps around the track on 2 wheels, but never really done any on 4 wheels. So yeah, to go out and all of a sudden be a passenger in a car that's going 100+ mile an hour completely sideways along the edge of the track was a new experience. But yeah, it was really fun, and yeah, thanks to Richie and Luca for organising that.
That was bonkers, really bonkers. Honestly, I adored seeing you two worried about each other, worried about yourselves, but enjoying it so much. And there wasn't even a hint that you were going to back out of it. It was so impressive.
Yeah.
You're on another level, to be fair. Angela, good evening from Martin and I. So we had Martin and Martin's better half as well, of course. This is an interesting one. James Downton says, be nice to have some sort of French cars up there again. I think that's probably for you, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, this is the classic I was speaking about earlier. Like, people want to see anything and everything at Combe. I think, as we move forward, George working loads on, the best sort of feedback options and stuff like that. At the minute we do respond to we get emails, we've got our chat to us online, that kind of thing. But I think what we're looking to do is again, it sounds a bit of a cliche, but we are always looking to evolve. People want to see more French cars. That's not the first time I've heard that comment, but I've also heard as many comment for Italian cars or an American action day or, a motorcycle action day, that sort of vibe where it becomes a motorcycle show, not just a race day and stuff. I mean, what
about merging the two? I keep bringing this up, even with the racing club as well, is that, and we see it a lot with MSV do a lot, where they kind of almost merge that action day / race day together, where there is a theme for the day and there's as much off track as there is on track.
Which is exactly what we're aiming to do for 2024. We've always done it with Autumn Classic. I think that's where you merge the two style of events, where you have a racing day. It's, Autumn Classic is a race day, and off the field we do a showcase of as many classic cars as we can, and that sort of classic trade village, those sort of things where they go hand in hand. So again, going back to working with Ian and Kat through the racing club, bringing in George's experiences, working with Max, Autumn Classic is the catalyst for how, we want to entertain as much off the track, as we can on the track.
Yeah.
So we have, when those conversations are, okay, what sort of visitor racing do we have? Okay, say we, as say we had a particularly high French contingent of racing in one of the series we do, then yeah, French cars will be something that we try and promote to get the club sort of look off track as well. So yeah, those sort of things. Now we've got this team, it is a bigger team. It's the things that people have said and thought about, and what we've noticed is now our opportunity to do that.
And I guess there's a chicken and egg thing there, though. And I know there's not an easy answer, because I know how hard Steve Weston used to have to work as the competition's secretary or director, whatever the title was, and Ian Danaher there now, is by the time they get the race dates to try and secure the things, to actually have a theme to it can be quite tricky. Whereas if there's that ability to kind of go, right, well, let's make this a French day, an Italian day. I go and commentate on mini festivals, which is another one that obviously some people are upset has disappeared as an action day. Italian festival, Deutschfest, and so it goes. And that's the races on track predominantly. It's just not easy to sort of pull the two things together at the same time, though, is it?
Well, it's not. And also, we say about the time constraints, one of the things we've worked on this year is to get our schedule to the racing club as quick as possible, to try and give them that opportunity to pull in the more spectator worthy races and stuff like that. Like the TCR conversation was great. That was a conversation we were having, and unfortunately it wasn't something that we're going to do for 2024, but we're not out of that conversation for 2025, so it's we having the racing club is one of the best things I think we have as a circuit. I think the passion again from them, but giving them the tools, giving them the opportunities and earlier scheduling and trying to get as many people in, because the more people that come in, it helps Max. The more sponsorship opportunities, the more, it's that classic where it sort of goes, hand in hand. I mean, it makes me think of, I don't know if you guys know Nick Wood from Pegasus Sprint.
Yep.
And I chatted with Nick very early doors. It was someone I met, and he's a character, but he's someone I lean on him for conversations and tutelage in a way. But the way he talks about, you could get this person, this race series with this race series, and you'll be doing this. He gets an understanding, and it's those sort of people that Nick's involved through Pegasus and has a long history with the circuit. But it's then, when you have those conversations with Kat and Ian and be like, oh, Nick's, for example, has mentioned this. Yeah, we've chatted to them about this. This is an option. But, it's all there. And I think, as with us, it's like helping the racing club as best as we can. And like I said, you've got some really great people working in that team. Hopefully what we're doing is boosting that and helping that get more attractive,
Joined up thinking. I think that's what people can take excitement about. That's what I like the sound of. And George, again, going back to our history of both growing up at the circuit, is that you must remember as much as I do, is that not just the action that was going on circuit, but when you walk through the car parks, and if there was Ferrari races, for example, there would be people rocking up with their road-going Ferraris parked in the thing, and it was just as much fun to wander through the car parks, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's quite a long time ago now for me in a way as well.
Yeah,
we're definitely getting there. Autumn Classic this year, we're getting back towards it, and I think that's the thing for us this year. It's I think Rodney was obviously the one who was really good at bringing in these car clubs and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's getting back towards that. So yeah,
agreed. And that's what I'm thinking, is the car clubs and the racing, is that's the joined up bit, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's something we want to try to get to more this year, building up our race meetings to be events as well, and just doing the best we can.
No, I agree with you there. Not sure who this question will go to. It's probably another Steve one, but I'm going to put it up. And again, this is just the opportunity for people to speak about it. The toilet block at the exit of Quarry has been closed since COVID. I'm going to throw you, Max, at that one, but I think it's a Steve Weston one, really. Does that mean anything to you?
So, the management and refurbishment of all the toilets is something that Steve's looking at. And the intention is to refurbish and open all the toilets around the site. What we're doing, or say what Steve is doing, is working on them in priority order. So the first one that's been done is the one that's at the back of Folly, which is by the main entrance of Bluegate. So that's the toilet block that's most used. So that's the refurbishment on that is pretty much finished. And from there, we'll be moving around the other toilets around the site over winter and the following season to do the same thing across the site. Again, it comes down to we want to make the improvements, but there's a cost associated with it, so we kind of have to stagger it a little bit. And the way that Steve's doing that does make sense, and we'll focus on the ones that people use the most first, and then we'll work our way around the rest. And
that's what I'm, again, I put it up sort of going, look, guys, take massive confidence from all of this, is that it's so good to hear everything that is going on. And there are people in place to do this, which, again, put up Colin Porter's comment. Great to see the progress at Castle Combe and hear the future plans. And that was one of the other things I wanted to do. I want to introduce the personalities here, but also to sort of see the work that has already gone in and that is going on, and the different roles, but the teamwork and everything else that's going on is really, really exciting. I love this, that your other half, Danny, said, the panic on your three faces when I disappeared. Sorry, guys.
So there was just silence for a second where all of us like, oh no, what do we do now?
Dawesy, you mentioned before we all started chatting, and it was I might dip out or something, but no one can hear what he's saying or something. Don't worry about it.
Really dramatic.
Very much no, he's just gone and left us here.
No, you were safe. You were safe. And Karen has said Quarry catch fencing is going to extend 20 plus meters. So there you go. That's the answer to that one. And Baldrick Bryan says, evening, Gin Master. Evening, mate. We are smashing the refurb on the circuit. Glad to hear it. I'm not the gin master anymore. The problem is that the current Mrs. Dawes that normally replenishes me is watching Bake Off with Diddy Dawes downstairs, so I don't get the attention I'm used to, sadly. Okay, I'm interested on this question, and I don't know who this is aimed at, really. Paul Wiltshire says, is there dialogue with the local authorities regarding noise? Who does that go to? You?
Me.
Is it?
Well, I've been sort of working on the noise thing in previous jobs.
Okay.
I used to work at UE, the French A campus, next to the MOD, next to a massive residential area. So, I get students can be quite noisy as well as race cars and stuff like that.
I don't know what you're talking about, mate.
Well, this was always the argument. And you want to please everybody. That's what I said earlier. Like, in the events world, you want to try and please everybody and that kind of thing. And I think we do have a very good sort of open dialogue. We met with them recently to talk about plans for 2024, to talk about how 2023 had been, and planning in regular, pre-season, mid-season, end of season sort of catch-ups, as well as, opening up ourselves to have those conversations if something happens that requires a conversation beforehand. I think, Castle Combe circuit is not the big bad guy, but if you live next to the circuit, we can definitely come across that way. We have busy events and access is generally through country lanes or, B roads and stuff like that. So we do our best to mitigate the impact. We release to the local residents what's happening and when, to try and prepare for it. We take on feedback. I mean, I don't know if you know, with the traffic lights we have for Action Day, we have a traffic light system to get in. We know how busy those roads can be. We've had some feedback about turning off the traffic lights between a certain time when it's not so busy. And it was like, okay, so we don't see the impact because we're all inside dealing with everything that's going on. But it's that sort of thing where it's not just the noise, it's the overall impact as well. We had the bike night. I think, Max will smile, George will smile, everyone will smile, but that was a bike night and a half. Rob Jones, shout out to Rob, all his support with the bike stuff. He came to us and was like, I want to bring back bike nights. I'm not going to try and do his accent. And I was like, okay, what does that look like, Rob? What's a bike night? And he was like, effectively, Castle Combe becomes a car park. People park up their bikes, have a talk about it, have some food, some trade stands. I was like, brilliant. I was like, free entry thing? He's like, yeah, people shake a bucket for a charity. That's pretty much it. Great. First night, July, middle of July, brilliant. Castle Combe.
Stacked, wasn't it?
Absolutely wetted down. I've got to watch my words now.
From holiday.
Karen watching. So it was absolutely disgusting weather-wise, and 60 bikes turned up. I don't think I've ever seen Rob so happy when I saw him. He was like, I'll take that. 60 bikes in this weather. We get a little bit of that good weather, Rich. You'll get about 300 in here. And I was like, 300? He was like, oh, all right, 250. And I was like, cool. Next month we did it. We had a really successful, after the price changes and stuff, we had a really successful race meeting on the Monday, the bank holiday Monday. Steve Weston even saying quarry and camp, busiest he'd seen it in years and stuff. The bike night on the Wednesday, 300 bikes were there half an hour before it officially started.
Yeah.
Half an hour later, I think we're upwards of 1,000. Rob was like Christmas Day for me. That was my first touch of Christmas. With Rob coming down, a kid seeing all the presents under the tree. But from an events perspective, I was like, this is something I'm going to have to manage with the locals tomorrow. On site, no noise. People have parked their bikes up. But the noise motorbikes make to and fro and that volume and stuff. That's the thing where we talk to them. We've met with them. It's, next year, we want them to continue. They're a great tool. It's obviously something our customers want. It's not a massive commercial entity. It's a great marketing opportunity. But from a commercial perspective, it's not really there, but it is something our customers want. So we have to manage numbers. We have to manage, when we do it. Because we do it on the back of a bike track day at the minute. So bikes all day going around the track. Makes sense because everyone was there, but then there's other days we can do it. We've got quieter days. We had a Tesla day recently. It was very quiet. Very weird. had
Yeah, I
to keep
can
checking on the
imagine.
marshals because they're not used to the quietness on the track and stuff. But you know, it's about smart thinking for those sort of things to happen. And we are allowed loud days. We have a certain amount of race meetings each year that we're
It's a
allowed
limit,
to be
isn't it?
louder on and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So there is an
Well-
open dialogue. It's a constant.
Well, and
we
an
do our best to find people.
interesting question, sort of like taking it further, is, and I'm going to answer this partly, but I'm going to put it up as it is. James Harridge says, can I ask why you run events like drifting, which are horrendously noisy for a circuit which has a noise problem? It baffles me. Point one, I will say, is that the drifting, and I'll come to the noise pit in a second, is that the reason that's on, James, is that you should see at the action days is that people just suddenly appear from the pit, the paddock, everywhere, and they're glued to it because the entertainment factor is amazing. Max knows it. He's been out in one now as well. Is just incredible. But how, let me turn that around, instead of it being an opinion of drifting, to how do you manage that is something that does noise? Is that down to the fact that there is a limited number of them?
The noise testing is done through again from a learning perspective only. I've not spent a lot of time with the noise guys and stuff, like, you know, it's engine revs and from a certain distance, a certain amount of revs, and you know, we have that limitation and stuff like that on it. The thing about drifting is it is spread out around the track.
Yes,
so you don't get like 5 cars drifting at one point, and you know, it's,
and there's only 10 on circuit. 10 on circuit any one time is the maximum as well.
And they are spread out, and it's like, you know, it's, I think camp is where they get the biggest drift, as they cover the whole paddock in smoke and stuff like that. So it, wherever you are, it's going to be horrendously noisy, using James's words there. Like, you know, it does get loud in certain areas at certain points. It's not sustained. It's not the constant noise the whole time they're out there. And if it is, it is intentionally spread out around the track.
Well, compare that to suddenly, say, 30 cars on a grid arriving at you know, quarry at the exactly the same time. Is that, you're right, is that, James, it's sort of like it is that spread out. So well done, Rich. That was a great way of answering it. Now, I'm going to work my way through in a second through all of the comments and questions as the nice way to bring this to a close. But before we do that, Max, one of the areas I didn't cover with you is, we touched on it, sponsorship. We can announce My Racing Lab as one. And there's multiple others that are on the way, but the one that we can talk about, My Racing Lab, speak to us about that.
Yeah, so My Race Lab are a relatively new company, and they basically provide a telemetry and track mapping service or application. So for anyone that doesn't know what telemetry is, it's kind of data logging or tracking for what goes on a car or on a bike. So you can plug a laptop into the machine, and then you can see, you know, what gear the driver or the rider was in around the track, what revs they were using, how much the suspension is traveling, how much the wheels are spinning. The idea behind it is that you can set up a car or a bike a lot better when you have this data to support the feedback that you get just from the driver or the rider. So it's a really great tool, but as with a lot of things in motorsport, it's quite expensive. And the more advanced it gets, the more tricky it becomes to understand it and use it just as yourself. What you'll find is teams will be employing data logging specialists that will spend the whole weekend sat in front of a laptop, you know, reading lines on a screen. So what that kind of means is that those that have bigger budgets and can afford to have the latest, you know, data logging and the most expensive you know, electronics experts suddenly have even more of an advantage than they would have had already over the smaller, more independent teams. Where My Race Lab have come in is that they're trying to bridge that gap and offer a more affordable, but also a more easy to use telemetry system, meaning that those people that are more independent and are on lower budgets actually have access to, you know, it's never going to be on the level of the, you know, the super expensive stuff, but it gives you a bit more of a fighting chance, and it's something that you can actually get your head into it and work on yourself. So that's the product that they've launched this year. They approached us and were interested in, you know, collaborating with the circuit and seeing how we could help them get their brand out there and get in front of more racing drivers. And the clear benefit of Castle Combe is that we have our own racing club with our own dedicated racing championships. So that was kind of what we put forward to them is, by becoming a sponsor, you can get involved in all the racing events. You can be present in the paddock, you can interact with the drivers and the teams, show them the product, get them using it, but also then be on hand to support them with using it as well. So, I think that's one of the key things, is that it's not just a plus for them in terms of they're getting good advertising and they're getting more customers, but there's real value for the drivers and teams that are part of the Castle Combe Racing Club, because they now have access to this new tool and people on hand to help them out for free, which is something that you wouldn't get anywhere else. And that's kind of something that we're trying to build with all our sponsorships and partnerships, is that it's more than just a company paying money to have some advertising boards up to promote their business. That might be part of it, but what we're looking for is partnerships where those third-party businesses that are coming in add value to the circuit as well. And whilst unfortunately we can't discuss any of the others at the moment because we haven't announced them yet, but we've got sort of half a dozen other sponsors and partners that have come on board, offering a range of different services. Be that from providing fuel.
Don't give it away now, Max. You're going to give
that's
it
all
away.
right. Don't worry. I won't mention any names, but we've got supercar companies. We've got I guess what we call prototype car companies as well that are partnering with the circuit to help their testing and development. So there's a lot of exciting companies that are coming in.
That was well covered, that one, Max. I'm impressed.
Thank you. So I think keep an eye out on the Castle Combe socials over the next month or two, because there'll be a lot to announce, and it's still November, so we're still looking to bring lots more on board as well. But always with that aim of not just paying the circuit to advertise, but actually bringing some value to the circuit as well, and helping us along this journey that we're kind of at the start of, with improving and modernizing what we have to offer.
No, there are some super exciting ones there, that's for sure. Okay, let me try and whip through some of these comments or questions. John Creech, I think the answer is probably a no to this one, but he says, wonder what the art of the possible is with having a grandstand with shelter, as there is no shelter which could be above any fencing. This would go down quite well. That's a big ask, isn't it?
It is. But that being said, it's something that we have spoken about, and it's something that it's not off the cards. But unfortunately, it comes down to the same thing of we need the funding to do so. There's lots of improvements and changes and things that we want to bring to the track, but all of those things cost money, and so they all kind of have to be prioritized. We're looking at the moment, like we mentioned, about refurbishing the toilets, refurbishing other areas of the site as the top priority to bring things up to a good standard. At that point, we're looking at, okay, what new investments can we make? But it's going to be a long process of 3, 4, 5+ years where you'll start to see these different things come in. But what I would say is Castle Combe circuit in 5 years' time would certainly look a lot different to how it does now.
Agreed. Right. One for you, Rich. Sarah Louise Davis says, hope there's a gap between the summer shows next year, having Summer Action Day, Forge Action Day, and RS Combe, which isn't a Combe run one. Is it the RS Combe one from memory? No,
so that's a private company.
Yeah, so that's external, Sarah Louise, so that's a different thing. But with no gap between was expensive and put off a lot of people.
So, I mean, like I said to you earlier, we've been working on the schedule. Last year, this year, sorry, it's last year to us.
Yeah.
Coming in and, working it, not knowing what to expect at these events and stuff. It was very intense, especially seeing the teams having to do something like that. So, I'm not going to say off the top of my head, we definitely haven't got 2 events sort of clashing and stuff like that. Like, our dates are very close to being released and is done in a way this time it is definitely spread out. With that in mind, the 2 biggest events I'm sort of working on are Autumn Classic and Rally Day, and they're 1 week after the other. So some of the stuff I feel like, I've obviously upset somebody.
Different audience, though, that, isn't
different
it?
Audiences, huge workload. But no, in all seriousness, it is something that, chatting to the team in the office, it was very much like we have to move our events sometimes as we're putting this schedule together for so many varying factors. It's we've got to do, again, we've mentioned it a few times today, like the event has to be as profitable as possible in the best way possible. So we have to avoid things like clashing with other big events and stuff that happens all over the country and stuff like that. But at the same time, we do lead the charge because we have the faith and popularity in what we do. So for us, yes, definitely it will look very different to this year. RS Combe, as you mentioned, is technically it's not an us run event. There's a few events throughout the year, like the Steam Rally. There's a new event coming in June. I think it's signed off, Max.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're working with like Masters of Motoring. That's a this week signed off, like a very different event. Something we'll heavily promote and get behind, but it's an event run by external people, which is a different challenge for me altogether. But some of these people were like, "This is the week we want. We only want this week." Hence why this year just got like it was well within their rights. It's it's building that sort of expectation on it being that time of year. Autumn Classic, we can never move it from the weekend it's on. That's that's the thing. But no, it's highlighted and it is something that has been a leading factor, and that's putting next year's schedule together.
Fair dues. Right. Don't need too many words on these ones, I don't think. Adam Higgins, multiple Formula Ford champion at Combe. No need for garages at Combe, just some electricity hookups for competitors and visitors. There's a chuckle there from George. I think you've heard that one before, haven't you?
Yeah.
The Steve Weston thing.
Yeah,
it's the Steve Weston thing. Yeah, we'll hide behind. Good point, Adam. We'll have Steve Weston on at some point, but he wanted to wait until there was more done and more planned, basically. And I didn't want an odd number on the screen. And on the garage one, and I'd imagine that Goose is talking about TCR more than anything. Why not use temporary garages? Okay, they would need assembly, but at least that wouldn't annoy the planning committee. There's a nod there from a couple of people that have talked about
that is something that we spoke about, particularly with TCR. Is if there was a high profile series that wanted to come to the track that kind of required garages, or that was one of their must haves, then we would look at putting up temporary garages. But again, it's not something that we'd want to invest in doing it unless we had to, because it's a temporary thing and it's going to cost money that's going to take away from what we can look to invest. We want to invest in permanent infrastructure. But that being said, it would be done if it would help bring a high profile series like that to the circuit.
Yep, agreed. False economy, that's the whole thing. Tom says, hi Max, any chance open pit days for bikes will ever happen again? Last one I did was really good back in 2020.
So we're not bringing in open pit lane bike track days for next year, but we are bringing in what we're calling premier or premium bike track days. We're bringing in 3 of those for next year. Details for those will be shared shortly, I believe. But yeah, it will be more time on track, is what I would say. But yeah, keep an eye out for those.
Like it. John Creech says tarmac public car parks.
Again, I think it's a common theme, is that yes, again, that's another thing that we'd like to have, but it's not necessarily at the top of the priority list at the moment. We have things that have to be done. We have refurbishment and some new developments that are top priority, and that's what's being done over this winter. All of those things are on the card, and they're most likely on Steve Weston's very long list. But
yes,
we can't, unfortunately, as much as we'd like to do everything at once and transform it, it's going to be a process, and all of these kind of things are on the agenda, or are at least being discussed, but it's things for further down the line.
What I'll also say is, because I'm going to try and whip through this, because we've still got a fair few comments or questions that I do want to just put up there with as few words as possible to answer them. But also, all 3 of you, think of a closing statement to let the fans know what they can look forward to from your role, what you're going to do. So it gives you time to think about that one, guys. Hopefully you'll have something. Ben Hayward says, may I say thank you for the bacon and sausage vouchers following the season ticket price drop. Really nice touch, I thought. So nice. Thank you, Ben, for the lovely comment. Angela, Martin's better half, says, are there going to be bike nights again?
Yes.
Thank you. That's as many words as that one needs. Adam Weller. Hello, Adam, one of my fellow commentators. He says, Castle Combe has its own microclimate, quoting that. He says, I fondly remember being there in mid-April and seeing snow during a morning qualifying. I commend this team for working hard to outdo themselves. 100% agree. Jackie Ford says, good congratulations on your wedding, Jackie and John Ford. Many congratulations, guys. Good luck getting John Ford on Combe TV. More chance of getting Max Ford, our crazy hound, on. Max does have form appearing on TV. Jackie, I think you might be wrong. I think I'm going to be getting Mr. Ford on the TV. We're going to be talking about some things, so you're going to be pleasantly surprised, Jackie, I think. Andy Abraham says, must say you've put in a well-needed boost to promote the circuit. So that's good. That's one of our local drivers, raced for the Classic Touring Car in the Classic Touring Car Racing Club, whose awards I'm hosting the week after the Combe ones. And it's nice to see that he's congratulating you guys on the work, promoting it. Lynn Hoy, one of our Mighty Orange Army, Autumn Classic was excellent. And then we heard that a lot, to be honest with you, which is wonderful to see. Oh, Colin Porter, looking forward to seeing Dawesy at the Classic Touring Car Racing Club Awards dinner. Looking forward to seeing you there, mate. It's going to be good fun. You were talking about festive food earlier. Daniel Williams says, had my first Greg's festive bake the other day, so must be Christmas.
I hadn't even heard the festive bakes right yet, but
apparently so.
I might be going to Greg's tomorrow.
There you go, sales and marketing manager George. You got to get those in for the office team next.
We did use them with the maintenance team. Maybe it's
yeah. Danny, your other half, Max, says the drifting was the most exhilarating thing I've ever done, and I'm not surprised he says that. Jane Cooper says first-class heated shower and toilet facilities for overnighters.
Yeah,
that's a Steve Weston thing again, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely.
Believe that. More bike nights, says Chris Rea. Yep, the answers to that. Peggy Spackman says merging race day at Autumn Classic with traders and clubs was brilliant. So there you go. Compliment to you, Rich, in particular there. British Car Action Day would be good.
Again, in the discussions, it's
really
what like our racing days. We are limited to the number of action days we can do. So we've just analysed this year's action days to see which ones carry on for next year. There's been no dramatic changes, unfortunately, nothing to shout about there, but they will always be under constant review. That's where we're at with it. Like, you know,
it's in discussions, Rich. That's all we want to hear, mate. That's a good thing. Graham Conlon, one of the hardcore, says next season will be my 53rd year of spectating. You legend, mate. You legend. So things like toilets become very important. I'm with you. I understand that. Adam Weller, commentary friend, Castle Combe Fusion Festivals, one for Italian and German car championships and clubs, one for French and American, etc. Yeah, we can have fusions. That's a good idea. James Downton says, what about doing some breakfast car clubs?
He says mate as well.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, George, we had this conversation today.
Yeah.
So,
really?
Yeah, I mean, from a learning perspective, again, I'll lean on into that. I think the idea is that we approach car clubs, or car clubs approach us about wanting to come, because obviously if we open up the doors on like a Sunday morning for any car to turn up and have a breakfast, we find ourselves in the bike night. I want to say overwhelmed, but the bike night numbers that we were like, you know, that's a definite possibility because the draw of Castle Combe to come and bring a vehicle. So I, you know, as part of my closing statement, I'll get to that, but you know, contact details. We've got an events at castlecombecircuit.co.uk email inbox, which is you know, one of my inboxes. Like, I'm open to offers and people reaching out, and you know, that's part of it. Like, that events inbox is there. It's ready to be utilized, and you know, to get it up however you can on the screen and stuff. Like, people, like I said, people have these ideas for events and stuff. Please know that we are also having these events. It's, you know, it's very much a realization that there's only so many days in the year, let alone so many days between March and October, where we can actually put these things on. So, you know, the priorities of making money to boost the circuit, but at the same time offering the circuit out to more and more audiences on things like car meets and bike nights and stuff like that, where we're not making a commercial entity. It's then shouting about the things that we do alongside that. So yeah, quick answer. Sorry, I don't give quick answers.
You don't. I was going to say that you don't, do you, Rich? But listen, in the private chat for our offline bit that I told you that we've got, put that email address you want, and I'll copy and paste that as a banner to put across the top. So you do that now, Rich.
Yeah.
Just type it in our private chat. Hopefully you saw where that was, and you can just type it in, and I'll copy and paste it in. Lynn Hoy says the band at the Autumn Classic was excellent. It was like the job centre scene from the Full Monty, with the start line or post one marshals breaking into little moves. We couldn't help ourselves. So you got them all dancing, which is brilliant. Nick Holmes from Club Racing UK says club cars and enthusiasts at tracks whilst racing is on track is the perfect combo. Definitely agree. Jamie Peters Ennis says it was so refreshing. It's so refreshing to hear of the potential plans for Combe. Seeing the crowd back to where it was lovely. 2024 sounds very exciting for the circuit, and I applaud the new team's enthusiasm and passion. Are there plans to put power in the paddock? Steve Weston comments, so we'll wait for that one. Jamie Peters Ennis. Jane Cooper says surely paddock facilities are a priority.
Yeah, so the priority, again, technically a Steve Weston question, but the priority over this winter is certain facilities in the paddock and certain facilities that get used most by attendees and spectators. So we've tried to identify either the places where people use them the most, or the places where it perhaps needs to be done for safety or like building management reasons. So yes, there's areas of the paddock and areas elsewhere that we're looking at for this winter in particular, because they're either the ones that are most used or most in need of work.
Yeah, totally understand. Baldrick Bryan says started quarry block today, so will be open. So that's nice of him to say there. This is a good one. James Downton says it would be nice to see Rally Day bigger like it used to be. It's gonna be, Rich, isn't it? It's called Rally Day XL.
I have heard it's going to be bigger. I've heard to the point we've had to rename it. So Rally Day XL 2024 is a 2-dayer. We're bringing in lots. I think, I was here for Rally Day this year. I'd only been here a month or two. One of the most fed back events, I think, for people's comments about what was going on. And yeah, I can rest assured we've put a full committee together to bring Rally Day. I can't sit here and say it's going to go back to its former glories and stuff like that, but we are working with plenty of rally enthusiasts and people to get it done. I mean, the 2-dayer is sort of leading into the fact that something on that second day will be something that the circuit hasn't seen properly in a long time. So I'll leave it there.
I think that was good enough. So there you go. Events at castlecombecircuit.co.uk. I've also put it in the chat so that people can see that. Right, quickly then, I've got to go back up. Where did we get to? How about a modified car night, perhaps a Friday, a few months during the summer? That's asking for trouble, isn't it? A modified car night.
Can we go back to our previous dialogue with the locals? And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, a great idea. Great to do that. We want to do everything. We'd love to be running stuff on there till 10 o'clock at night and stuff like that. But
that's what cost Mallory. That's what cost Mallory Park as an example. So we've got to be very, very careful. Luca, the legend that is Luca, that organises all the drifting. More drifting, please. And I know there's always talk. And Graham himself was interested in that idea of actually having a drifting competition during a race day as well. That's sort of always there, sort of like playing with the idea. So definitely would like to see more of that. And in fact, Danny Wilson says, I second this. I'm not surprised. And this is another good point. Goose says a lot of the drifters have the exhaust tips pointed down, so the noise is pointed at the circuit, not straight out of the exhaust, like a normal car. It does make a difference, apparently. Dancing Marshall Pippa Gore says, waving high, fresh from Race of Remembrance at Anglesey. I'm not going to put up that one. Oh, this is another one. Andy Lawrence, running late, sorry. Investment in fibre for lights, timekeepers and live streamers would be helpful. That's one for Steve, I'm sure.
And it is one that Steve's looked at and has got costs for. Again, that's a
very expensive.
That's a very expensive investment. So again, it's on Steve's list, but it is a little way down because it is very, very expensive.
It is massively. I'm aware of that one. Ben Hayward says, "Oh, premium bike track days, like take my money already." Adam Higgins, Formula Ford racer, race car test day sessions times need looking into. All other circuits have longer sessions for a good reason. A 15-minute session isn't long enough to test race cars properly, i.e. making changes and trying it out immediately. At least 25 minutes would be better. That's probably one for me to take to the racing club, isn't it?
It's a tricky. Why I can speak from the bike side because it is a similar thing where sessions can be shorter at Combe, but that comes down to the fact that noise limits mean that we can only have a small number of people out on track. So if we were to make long, say like half-hour sessions, we just wouldn't be able to have as many people on the test days. So although some people will be getting more track time, other people will be getting none because we just can't have more cars or more bikes out on track. So yeah, I get the frustration that sometimes the sessions can kind of go over in a flash because I've felt that myself. But on the other side, you wouldn't ever, or at least I've never experienced track time that's so quiet. So you get less of it, but I'd say it's perhaps more valuable.
It's interesting though, Adam.
Noise, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we'll take that on board, Adam. And I think that it did come up in a board meeting, and you said, I suppose that would be another one for Mr. Weston, not necessarily that one for him, to be fair. Let me just create Richard Beard, our very own Beardy. Great to hear from the team, including Dawesy, of course. 2024, bring it on, indeed. So what we got here, Alex Davis says, may already be raised, but a suggested change for next year is a one-way system needed between red zone and trailer park at shows. Many shows get issues with cars and or trailers trying to go both ways on a single track road. The outside lane could be utilised to create a one-way system. Just one for you to take on board, I guess, and have a think about there, guys. Would also like to know more on Rally Day XL, as it looks a 2-day event next year. Minimal words, Rich, but is that what do we know? What are we allowed to know?
Yes.
That's enough words for me.
I sort of touched on it earlier. I don't know when this comment sort of came up, but there's a lot going into it. Stuff being released over the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, something like Rally Day is for next year, Rally Day XL, to call it what it is having a lot of moving parts. So that even if we just release the dates and stuff, and now there's going to be stuff coming out throughout the year. And again, a shout out to the events inbox that I've put up, like you put up for us, Dawesy, like get involved. If there's bits you think we're missing, like it's an open thing. It's an event that people love. Like I need, I'm always happy to tap into people's passions and comments and stuff. So yeah, send it over.
And I love the fact that I'm hopefully going to be involved in that this year with you guys, which will be absolutely wicked. Where do I get to? I've lost where I was. I think Sarah Louise repeated a question because I took a while. Emma's also done info at castlecombecircuit.co.uk is an important one as well. Lucy Hezza says, Rich is doing such an amazing job. There's your fan.
I know her.
Yeah, that's fine. Not a question actually from Sarah Louise. She says, but more a thank you. A few years ago, while at Summer Action Day, I was taken in at the track. The medical team were first class and looked after me and got me to hospital. Like I said, first class medical team. Sadly, I had experience of that myself this year as well when I was rushed off with a heart scare. And I agree, they are absolutely amazing. And God bless every single one of them. Chris Buckley, any chance of levelling or resurfacing or widening the pit exit, which is used as the start line for several of the sprints that are run, as currently it's downhill? I'll put that to Steve Weston. Ben Hayward, bless you, cracking broadcast, very positive, thank you all, spot on. And Sophie Moss says, any chance of extending the paddock area, especially with the NG Road Racing Club weekends, as there just isn't enough room for everyone with just one vehicle per rider? I'm not sure where that could happen, to be honest with you.
It's tricky because although Castle Combe is a big site, actually the outside of the track isn't that massive. So we have the main paddock and then the paddock B area. The kind of the overspill that we have is the option to move into Chippenham Road, which is the road from the paddock up to Quarry Corner. So there is appreciate that it's a little bit out of the main paddock, but that's sort of the next area to go. Obviously, it is on grass at the moment. Again, that's something that we could look at in future. But yeah, I think in the short term, it won't change.
So tricky because that then loses spectator parking, which of course we're blessed with spectator numbers. So there's no easy answer to that one. Angela also says medical staff looked after me in March. I remember that, Angela. I heard all about that. They are amazing, so that backs that one up. So that's the end of the comments and the questions. Right, which order shall I do this in? I'm going to go with you first, Max. Any closing comments that you can give anybody?
I think from the work that I'm doing, I'd say keep an eye out over the next few months for these partnerships that we're going to be announcing. I think some of them may be quite obvious, and then I think some of the others may be quite a surprise, and they're going to bring some interesting elements to the events and to the circuit in general next year. So yeah, I'd say in the short term, really keep an eye out for that, because I think there'll be a few surprises there maybe.
I like the sound of that. Interestingly, Nick Ramsden says Paddock B cannot hear paddock announcements. This needs to be looked into. So
we'll pass on the message to Steve.
And Adam says, Chris, when is Steve Weston on Combe TV? I'll come back then as I have a few questions. Watch this space, Adam.
I think he's going to need his own episode, just a Q&A with Steve Weston.
It is, but rest assured that they are a team, Adam, so please don't think it was wasted. Steve actually just didn't think that he'd have much to say or answer. He was very wrong on this one, bless him. We're joking about him having his own show, but he just thought that he'd been on several times before. There wouldn't be enough, and he was definitely wrong on this one, which is great. It's really encouraging. Rest assured, everything that is being said or asked here is going to get fed back, and it doesn't mean it'll all happen, but it means that we know that there are questions being asked as well. John Creech says, appreciate that these things cost a lot of money and would be good to see the circuit improve over time, step by step. Right. George, final words from you, my friend.
Yeah, I think mainly that we're just going to keep going like that. The last thing just said, like step by step, looking to improve, and just trying our best. And we're listening to what people are doing, like what people are saying for all the feedback channels we have, and looking at what other events do to try and get up to the market standard. But yeah, just excited more than anything, and just want to take the journey together and enjoy it really, I think.
And what I'll emphasize with these guys as well is that it's not that they are listening, they are taking it on board, but equally they're not wallowing and suddenly going, oh, we'll do what you say, which doesn't work. I can assure you, I've seen that go very, very wrong as well. They take on board, they've got to make it work commercially, and that's why every single one of these guys are absolutely vital. Question here, I don't know, this is probably one for the racing club more than anything else. Is there any chance of any endurance racing at all? Is that a racing club question? I think it is.
I know we have some longer races at the Autumn Classic. They're sort of 90-minute races, but yeah, the races that happen as part of the racing events come down to the racing club themselves. They have their own championships, and then they arrange for guest series to come in. So they're always trying to find different and interesting classes. But yeah, at the moment, the only sort of longer race that I'm aware of is the I think it's the Classic GT and Sports Car Cup at the Autumn Classic.
It's an interesting challenge, this one, though, because I know I cover I've covered 24-hour races and everything between sprint and that. But quite a lot of spectators actually complain about them as well and say it's one for the drivers, not the spectators, which isn't always fully true, I have to say. I mean, Jamie Peters-Ennis was watching earlier, may still be, and he'll say about the Fun Cup is just incredible. I cover the Enduro KA and the C1 Challenge, and it just provides some of the most incredible racing, but it's a real Marmite, isn't it?
I know some people have not been a fan of endurance racing, which should we say. But but that's what the racing club try and do. They try and bring in a little bit of everything. So, if whatever you're a fan of, there should be something that's just for you at some point over the year.
Agreed. Another thank you. Just wanted to say thank you for all the hard work that goes into the NG race meetings. Castle Combe is my partner's favourite circuit, with it being very similar surface to the roads, which is ironic. Anybody who goes on it goes, it's the smoothest surface I've ever been on. But when you consider that, the TT teams come and test here, it sort of tells you a lot. There you go. Jamie is watching. Fun Cup at Combe would be amazing. I agree. But then Goose at Quarry Hardcore, yeah, I was one. 90 minutes was far too long for a classic race. It's such a split
There
bag
you
on
go.
that one, isn't it? Andy Lawrence from Bristol Motor Club says this really does highlight some of the bigger problems with motorsport in general. So many things that the venue have no say on because other stakeholders are responsible for that part. Absolutely, in many, many ways. Rich, over to you, my friend. What's your closing words?
I guess, I'll wrap it up as a team sort of thing as well. Just like a thank you really to everyone that comes to the track and has definitely come to the track over the last 6 months since I've been there. Keep giving us your feedback, keep listening, keep looking out for what we're doing. Hopefully we'll be invited on to more of these things moving forward. Hopefully no one's falling asleep listening to us talking and stuff. My passion is definitely growing for Castle Combe and what we're doing. So I'm going to continue to do my best. What we've effectively developed within Castle Combe from the management level as a little team. We do say there's the four of us when we include Steve, but Chris Mason, the medical team, Kat for the racing club, like Emma with all the stuff with the school. Like there's just so much that you don't always get to see, but then these opportunities for us to sort of tell everyone sort of what's going on and what to be excited for. Even though I've very much kept a rally day close to my chest so far at the minute, that's what it's all about, and I think that's what we're all really enjoying. So yeah, just keep watching, keep listening.
Indeed. Well, some final lovely comments coming in. Jane Cooper says, great discussion, guys. Combe is in my blood too. It's a historic venue that needs to continue. Tim Perry, one of Orange Army. Teamwork is dream work. Good to see the changes over time. Thank you guys for all your work. Angela says, happy Christmas, guys. See you next year. Don't start that yet, Angela. You'll encourage Danny to start putting more decorations up as well. Goose says, overall, everything looks positive, it seems, which is really good to see. Best of luck. Roll on 2024. Matt Crozier says, have to say the ARDS training was brilliant. Please remember you can get that at Castle Combe as well. Thanks for engaging with the people who want to support the circuit. Our very own Emma Strawford says, well done, guys. Don't be late in the morning, you guys. All right.
No promises.
Hashtag Team Combe. And that they got mentioned earlier as well, the beloved Castle Combe Steam Rally. Thanks for all the update. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. It was a great opportunity. Thank you very much to Rich, to George, to Max for coming on tonight, guys. It's been wonderful to catch up with the people, the job, and the tasks at hand. So thank you for all your work and for coming on tonight.
Cheers for having us, Chris.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
everyone.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Listen,
Bye.
take it steady. We'll catch up with you soon. And as Tim says, dilly, dilly indeed. So we'll play you out with the close.